Good morning. I'm Professor Pr.Touria NAKKOUCH. I'm a senior member of the English department of the Faculty of Letters and Human Sciences, and I am here and now introducing the English Studies licence filière, which is a fundamental filière, with a focus on the literary studies stream, one of the options that the students who enroll in this filière take on or take up at the level of the licence cycle. You may consider, so I am in fact addressing baccalaureate holders, and we are running these introductions to filières and to streams with the view of helping you to orient yourself to the right filière. So you may consider this as part of one of two moments of orientation that you are supposed to undertake in your university studies for the 3 next years. For this introduction, I will cover 3 questions that I consider to be key questions that you are concerned with at this stage. The first question concerns your profile, your motivation, and your attitude to learning, or what attitude to learning should you have, and how can you resolve the issue of orientation. So that's the first question. The second question will concern the English studies filière in general, but also the literary studies stream. And I'm going to evoke slightly some of the epistemological overtones and dimensions of this training. That is, what they serve, what purposes and what goals, what objectives they serve, and what you should expect to acquire by the end of the training. And the third and last point that I'm going to raise today is about the career prospects that English studies offer or offers to you. So let's start with the first main or key question. What profile, motivation, and attitude to learning should you have? And how do you orient yourself with regard to higher studies properly? Let's start with the second part of the question. This is, as I said before, this presentation and many similar ones introducing the other filières and the other departments. This is part of a first moment of orientation. So the more you know about a filière, the more you are in a position to choose what filière is most compatible with your profile. About the profile and the attitude to learning, you should bear in mind that that this licence program, which is English Studies, is recommended to highly motivated language learners, to avid young scholars with a strong penchant for languages, for literatures, and for the liberal arts. We call them the liberal arts for the simple reason that they are part of a legacy of liberal humanism, or الفكر in Arabic, تاريخ الفكر, which and they have, in fact, they have evolved through now, well, a number of centuries, but they are still part of this legacy of liberal humanism, or an age of reason that has marked tremendously the movements of literature, of culture, of philosophy in Europe and the United States, and certainly in the Arab world. About orientation, well, this, as I said before, is the first moment in orienting yourself. So maybe another cue, a very useful cue, is to test yourself on your own and to make sure that you are a very good or an excellent upper intermediate in English language. Because we receive normally upper intermediate to slightly advanced students with the purpose of helping them to improve and to advance to an advanced stage by the end of the training. So you can take a quiz or a test online and well, grade yourself, or have somebody give you a test and make sure that you are a very good upper intermediate in English language. The right learning attitude with regard to English studies would be that you react to skills as integrated skills, leading to one and the same result. So the more you do this, the better for you, because there is no real specialization at the licence cycle. Also, you should bear in mind that students in the licence, in the English studies licence, should not be passive recipients of knowledge, but active partakers in the learning process. They are required to react, to interact with content. That, not only that, effort would allow them to build their capacity for abstraction and the creation of knowledge, and not only a mere consumption of knowledge. So, on it all, the right attitude to learning involves personal integrity and challenge, acceptance to devote your time and energy over 3 years to study, knowing that part of the process occurs at home. So I would recommend that you befriend your desk corner at home, befriend it for a time. You need also to respect knowledge, to respect the classroom situation, and to respect, of course, the teacher in terms of, or with regard to time and space management, with regard to values, and with regard to behaviors. Last of all, exams are not an end, but a measure to gauge merit and to prepare you for a new process. It's a new beginning to a different process, and they should be taken with composure and with dignity. Let's move to the second point in this presentation. And I presuppose that you have the leaflets, le dépliant des études anglaises entre vos mains. That you have the leaflets in your hands and that you read it at the same time that you listen to this presentation. You will notice, in terms of technical matters, you'll notice that the licence filière is about 2,000 hours. Literally, it's 1,900 hours. 800 of it, half of it is dedicated to teaching. Another half, or another 800, is dedicated to TP and TD, travaux pratiques, travaux dirigés, and 300 hours to evaluation. So when this is all to tell you that the 800 hours of teaching lead to a very small 20 hours per module. And 20 hours per module is 10 weeks. It's also 2 months and a half. So think twice before you decide to absent yourself or to stay in bed. Because the teacher component of the semester is very brief. And study does not end there. Okay, very briefly I would say that the first, the semesters 1 and 2 provide you with an intense training in basic skills, and we said before that they should be taken as integrated skills. Plus a second language, I think it's French, and another module in study skills and professional skills. And the aspect about professional skills is very, very important when you know that these skills, we call them in Arabic al-maharat al-hayatiyya, al-maharat al-dhatiyya. In fact, are the skills that allow you to undertake your job, your career. Le métier d'étudiant, comment apprendre le métier d'étudiant, you cannot, it is not inborn, it's not innate, you're not born with it, you don't come to the university with it, you acquire it step by step through these soft skills. Some of them are study skills, some of them are personal skills, and some of them are professional or business skills. In fact, in semester 1 and 2, you take one module in study skills and one module in business communication, which is professional skills. So try to make the best of those skills. They are not secondary importance. Semester 3 and 4 lead you more towards a more focused training by providing introductions to disciplinary fields. Well, there are two main, let's say, ranges of these fields: literature, culture, media studies, linguistics, and translation on the one hand, and linguistics that is both applied and general morphology on the other hand. Okay, the best learning policy, in my opinion, is that you integrate and maintain contact between skills and disciplines, because the major is in English. Very briefly, I move you to semester 5 and 6, in which you have to decide about that is about taking one of two options. And that's the second moment of orientation. And this you have to do on your own. So you either take the literary studies stream or you take the linguistics studies stream. And I move you, of course, the research monograph or the end of studies monograph, which is worth 2 modules in credit unit, could be taken and written on any of the above options within any one option. That is, if you take linguistics, you can take either phonology, morphology, applied, or whatever. And if you take literature, you can take any of the following. And I tell you a bit more about the literary studies stream. So what is it all about? What literary studies do you undertake? I think that those of you who orient themselves towards literature and towards literary studies should know that the introductory courses that they have in semester 3 and 4 of the same leaflet or dépliant are supposed to pave the way for what they take in semesters 5 and 6, that is the literary studies stream. So they have introductions in literature, or to literature, and to cultural studies, and these are the 2 main components really of and they have 2 modules in the subfield of translation and interpretation. I consider translation as a subfield because it can work with any. It is more of an auxiliary discipline rather than a real discipline. All in all, and with regard to writing, that is to composition, of course you start with narration, description, and then you move on to argumentation. Well, you will realize that there is a very neat transition with regard to writing from basic modes of writing to more discursive and more advanced forms of composition. The epistemological overtones of this transition are enormous because they allow you to move from being, as we said before, a consumer and to being a partaker, a producer of ideas. They allow you also to define concepts and to examine these concepts and to deal with them. Okay, so you are not, and of course, and I said this before, they allow you to leap from content to abstraction, and this is the one advanced skill that you need to train yourself most, really. There are two modules in post-colonial studies, and they're supposed to familiarize the students with the modes of representation of identity, space, time, and values within the frame of a politics of otherness or alterity, in which the world is mapped into center cultures and literatures and periphery cultures and literatures. The first are agential, that is, they have within their hands the means to self-representation in discourse, in the history of representation, while the second, that is, those Southern Hemisphere, Third World or South literatures, have none. Most of them are merely national, they have no place in world cultures, and they have to negotiate an entry into discourse and into representation. Well, if you ever wonder what is the purpose of having post-colonial studies in your undergrad syllabus, it is, in my opinion, to help you enrich your perspective so that you are able to see things not from one angle, that would be either Eurocentric, nation-centric, or whatever, but that will allow you to relativize knowledge and concepts and so on. Yet, and this is a recommendation that I would make to you, interesting and popular as these two modules in post-colonial studies are, they should be taken with a bit of salt. That is, you may write your end of studies monograph in these two modules, but only as long as the post-colonial texts that you work on are English or Anglophone. Why? Well, because you major in English, dealing with post-coloniality in terms of text in Arabic, in Amazighi, or in another language, will has to wait until you're a postgrad. Of course, your introduction to cultural studies module introduces you within semesters 5 and 6 to how late 19th century ideas about culture in Britain have developed into one of the most inclusive and fertile fields of research in the human and social sciences. And many of you take on research monographs in culture studies, so you love to work with media, in media studies, in film studies, in gender studies, sometimes with semiotic texts like cartoons, like festivals, like and these and all this is part of cultural studies that you love as a field, as an option. Now remains one last component in this literary studies streams, and perhaps it is the most important. And these are the modules, the 6 modules, there are 6 in all, that you have on literature. So you have 2 modules on the novel as a genre, you have 2 modules on poetry as an artistic, as a form of artistic expression, and you have 2 novels on drama. And you may again wonder what they serve. Well, first you should notice that they are language oriented, that is, we teach you language, but in context, or in terms of a one language variety, which is not journalism, which is not media discourse, but it is literature. It is the novel, it is the poem, it is the play. Besides being language oriented, they provide you, and this unfortunately is most of the time wasted on you, that is, it goes unnoticed and unsuspected. They provide you with openings on English culture and literature that are wonderful, that are really wonderful, and they provide you with useful knowledge about soft skills. So this may be a bit far-fetched, but believe me, it's really learning a number of soft skills through the discourse of poetry. And the modules on literary forms and genres, so is really the penultimate component of this, the literary studies stream. The ultimate one is concerned with literary theory and criticism. And you will notice, dear students, that you have two modules, one in semester 5 called the literary movement, and one in semester 6 called Introduction to Modern Criticism. The ratio of having these two modules is very simple, but it's very pertinent. To every literature, to every art, there should be a sum of theories, a grammar of reading, just as there is a grammar of writing or a poetics of writing, so there should be a grammar of reading, a number of tools, a toolbox of how best to read and how best to appreciate and to write about that art. Be that art painting, then you will need to be introduced to art criticism, or literature, then it's literary criticism or literary theory and criticism, and so on. So this is why you have these two modules, the literary movements module and the modern literary criticism module. They play the role of a grammar, of a poetics, of a set of rules, of concepts that you apply, that you read into, or that you work with regard to the content that you're exposed to. One of the key questions that you are particularly concerned with is what job prospect, what career prospect does this training, does the English Studies filière offer me? Well, in fact, it doesn't offer any in this direct way. What it does is to qualify you as much as possible to be eligible to the type of job or the type of career or the type of higher studies that you want to undertake or that you dream of undertaking. So there are two levels on which we can speak of the high potential in terms of career prospects that English studies offer you. With regard to higher studies, you should bear in mind that the English Studies licence holders with good records, avec un relevé de notes qui est bon, on va dire, may apply to master programs all over campus, that is, programs that are either fundamental programs, professionalizing master programs, interdisciplinary master programs. So we have a variety of master programs that are concerned with field research, with applied research, with teaching, with media studies, with comparative literature, and you may apply to any one of these. You have this advantage because you come from a language department. The English department, by the way, the Department of English Language and Literature, by the way, has so far 2 master programs, one in literature or in comparative literature, comparative criticism and literature that is, and another one in applied languages and TEFL. And it has also a doctoral training, a doctoral program in interdisciplinary studies. So you can apply to these just as you can apply to master programs either locally, that is in Ibn Zuhr, or in the rest of, that is in other Moroccan universities. As to career prospects, well, English studies license holders, again with good records, may apply to jobs in primary and secondary schools. These are teaching as teachers of English, of course. They may apply to jobs as ESP translators, or with ESP, that is English for specific purposes, and types of translation therein. They may apply to jobs as agents in call centers, or as agents in tourism and communication services. Of course, the list is wide, but we would rather that you that you accomplish a very good record and that you successfully integrate these jobs. We don't like at all seeing you in other jobs like being taxi drivers and that kind of thing. We would rather that you honor this license by putting it to good and proper use. And teachers of English and English services, sometimes in English, whether of translation, whether of interpretation, are enormous in Morocco. Maybe just to close this presentation, I would remind you to remember and to keep in view the fact that your profile is never really complete without a component. There is an aspect of university life that we call associative life. الحياة الجماعية أو المجتمع يعني العمل الجماعي. You have to try to have a good record in associative life. And make sure that you take part in one of the university clubs. There are many clubs at the university, in sport, in art, in theater, in painting, in music. So take up one of those and make sure that you also take part in one civic action. يعني عمل مواطن. It could be on literacy, it could be on just the green campus concept, how to contribute with rendering your campus clean and green and so on. It could be anything. Make sure you do these because they rank high in your CV as a student. Okay. In fact, all in all, being a university student is not a part-time career. It's not something that you're on your own a great deal. And we leave you on your own a great deal because you have to do part of the job. We, in fact, cover, let's say, 45% of the job, but you have to do the remaining 55% of the job. So your part of the responsibility is higher, and as you move up towards the master and the doctorate trainings, it's even greater. Okay, so keep this in view. Keep move or walk in on campus with the sense of responsibility and with a great will to shoulder your responsibility, to wear your student self as decently, with as much dignity, with as much curiosity for knowledge as possible. Okay, it is a full-time 3-year experience in which you give to others as much as you would like to take yourself. And in doing this, you get out, you walk out of campus and out of the licence or the master or the doctorate program that you undertake with a much better version of yourself, if not the best. Thank you for your attention.